Many Americans say they focus on saving for retirement when they reach their 50s. But what happens if you lose your job at that age? Our economics correspondent Paul Solman and his producer Diane Lincoln Estes look at that challenge as part of our Making Sense series, Unfinished Business.
Every morning, 59-year-old Jay Christ leaves his home in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and drives to work at a local print shop.
I'm a fulfillment associate, fulfilling individual orders and then, making sure that all the product that's printed and needs to be distributed locally is delivered, so like a delivery driver.
Christ spent his career in a higher echelon of the printing industry than this. For almost 30 years, Christ was a manager at printing giant R.R. Donnelley.
I've always supervised, always managed, and there was part of me like, I'll be one of those guys that retires here.
No such luck. He was laid off in 2016. His plans derailed when the firm reorganized. Economist Richard Johnson's work has shown that Christ is far from alone.
We found that more than half, 56%, of workers experienced an involuntary employer-related job separation after age 50.
Christ, who'd made $100,000 a year, began looking for a comparable job. But he soon realized
where I had been after all those years with salary and benefits and things was not what I was going to get if I stayed here. But also at the same time, I'm looking at this, I still had kids in school. I had bought a house, all the things that kind of hold you to a place.
Christ is a case in point of what, in our ostensibly booming economy, so many workers in their 50s and older face these days, says Professor Teresa Ghilarducci.
They're less mobile. Older workers are sticky to their geographical place. They have relationships with people in the community. They have a house for all the reasons that we all know. And so they can't move to get a better job.
Christ also faced another hurdle shared with Americans turning his age, 59. 400 of us every single minute.
A lot of companies don't want to hire somebody who's 50 plus and needs has a salary expectation that's above what they're willing to pay. So they can easily say it's because of salary or wage.
Christ only found the job at local H&H Printing after about a year of looking.
Had to take a heck of a cut in pay, but I was happy about it. It's hourly. It's about $40,000 a year.
That's not unusual, says Richard Johnson.
Almost all workers who lose a job at older ages end up making much less on the new job than they did on the old job. We found that only 10% of people earned as much on the new job as on the old job. And on average, they tended to earn only about half as much.
Christ's printing job doesn't pay enough, so he also works nights from 7:30 to 2 a.m. at Planet Fitness for $12 an hour.
It's at your front counter service, and you're checking people in, and you're helping them helping with their memberships. So it's about 4.5 hours of sleep during the week that I'm getting.
Half a night's sleep, and then back to H&H Printing.
If I wanted to lay down right now and fall asleep, it would be easy.
But he can't, not even on Sundays, when Christ heads to a third job at a local brewery.
It's nice to get a little bit of cash for tips, because it's just a minimum wage job otherwise, because then you have a little extra money and you're not waiting between paychecks and having to manage all of that.
With 3 jobs plus $14,000 a year pension from R.R. Donnelley, Christ still brings in barely 70% of his previous income.
Can I manage to continue to work this many hours, this many jobs? My mind says I can, I will, I have to. I mean, if I start thinking I can't or it's too hard, then mentally you wouldn't be able to manage it. So long as I'm, stay healthy and can manage it, and I'll have to.
Christ's younger daughter is in college. His wife's depression and anxiety have worsened since his layoff, preventing her from working.
I see my wife and her, the depression and the physical things that she's gone through. And so there's that part of it too. I mean, just the economics of, care, medicine these days is it's outrageous. It's like so I try not to think about that, because that almost would, put you over the edge. You just do whatever you got to do to keep everything else afloat. But
So many older workers are struggling to do just that, says Ghilarducci.
When you look at real lives and you see the turmoil in their work life between, let's say, 59 to 63, and their health, there's a lot of shocks that are going on with their spouse and with themselves because they're interdependent.
Which raises the stakes for workers like Jay Christ to stay healthy.
I was unloading off of one of the trucks and fell onto my shoulder and back. Thank God I didn't break anything. I didn't, tear anything. I didn't cut anything. I didn't lose any days of work. And it wasn't, I was just lucky as hell and I thought, man, it's all it would have taken.
Traditional retirement, as for so many once secure older Americans, is out of the question.
I pretty much blew through all of the 401k stuff I had. So at this point, there's like really no savings. I mean, the house and still paying a mortgage on it that's what I have. It's frustrating that, in my mind, somebody who's done the things you kind of were told as a kid and as you were growing up you needed to do, stay at a job, work, learn, be helpful, get promotions, do right by people. And then you find yourself at this point in your career like going, that doesn't mean shit.
Christ now understands what he didn't when he was in the manager's seat.
I had to lay off an entire family, husband, wife, and daughter. And prior to that, I kept telling them, you guys need to try to do something. You need to try to find something. Now I find myself in that situation like going, that wasn't really helpful to be able to say those things because you can't just go out and find another job. And I was the guy who laid him off. And at least I'm not that asshole anymore.
No, he's not. Jay Christ works more, is paid less, and now that a third of the workforce is 50 plus, there figure to be many more like him. For the PBS NewsHour, this is Paul Salman.
A lot to think about there.